Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to another Live at the Waterhole 2 hour extravaganza with me, Ben Coley, at the helm, as we will guide you across our cameras in various locations across southern and eastern Africa. And we have started off the afternoon, as we often do, at the always exciting Oldonyo Waterhole up in Kenya with three magnificent elephant bulls, and a giraffe taking the opportunity to do a little bit of limbering up, some gymnastics in order to stretch that long neck down and have a drink. But as always, the show is live. I'm standing by for any questions and comments or anything you'd like to discuss. Please do send them in to all of the normal platforms. They will be sent through to me, and hopefully we can give you a mention live on air. So not sure what we're going to see today. We never are. But elephants, giraffe and zebras are forming the main part of the diet this time of year. Of course, we are in the very midst of the dry season here. So animals under a loss of water pressure this time of the year. So congregating around waterholes. We've had some lovely sightings over the last few days of multiple different species, showing Africa's diversity as everything comes down to take advantage of these water points. Stacey, you're ready to get your waterhole wiggle on. I like that. Absolutely. Let's all do the same. I think we should maybe start that as a thing. Do the waterhole wiggle at 12:30 every day. And hello from a windy Western Cape from Randall as well. Good afternoon, Randall. Glad you could also join us for what promises to be a great show. Rather dramatic skyline here at Kenya. Lots of silver linings on those dark clouds. No sign of Mount Kilimanjaro again today, but three gargantuan mammals to look at instead. Very impressive left tusk the one has got there. He's having a drink. Looks like he's sheared off his right tusk. We do see that quite often in elephants, of course. More often than not broken during a tussle with another male, locking those tusks and wrestling with one another. But elephants are nothing but resourceful. I've seen some elephants over the years with some pretty horrible injuries to trunks and things. Those that have lost their trunks to snares have them sort of cut off halfway up. And they're still able to figure it out and come up with ways to survive. So a broken tusk shouldn't be too much of a hindrance. The other one will still be used, certainly, but it'll probably still choose to use the other tusk. That's obviously his tusk of choice, I would think. Don't see any obvious indentation or erosion towards the tip of the longer tusk there. Be interesting to know whether their preference to use a tusk does change in response to an injury like this. But rather like our teeth, there is nerve endings and there is pulp underneath that tusk, but it doesn't stretch very far outside from the gum line, maybe about sort of 15 centimeters or so from the gum line, I would think. And the rest of it, if it breaks off, it's not going to cause the elephant any discomfort. Toothache, not a nice thing. I'm sure we've all been subject to that in the past before. And there is, of course, theory that one of the reasons that elephants in their reproductive status, do get a little bit tetchy and a bit antsy is that must gland behind their eye swells up and actually puts pressure on the nerve endings of the teeth and of the tusks. So maybe they do indeed suffer from toothache. I would also be a grumpy bear and have been a grumpy bear when subjected to toothache. Erica Oldnow, greetings to you from Cape Town. You're asking how were the stars last night. The stars were beautiful, Erica. I did an evening for 12 students last night. We had a glorious evening, not a cloud in the sky. We looked at all sorts of interesting objects, discussed all sorts of star lore as well. And what was nice is we did actually see some shooting stars last night. So we're still in the Perseid meteor shower period, although the peak is supposedly past us, but I didn't see a single one in a couple of nights previously. But last night we saw five or six, and one nice big, what we would term a fireball, a very, very bright one that we were able to actually point out, and people were actually able to find it and look at it and watch it instead of just that very quick flash in the night sky. So I'm hoping for more this evening. I have another booking for tonight. So clear skies forecast, so let's cross fingers. Shifiwa, I hope I'm saying that correctly. Asking, do elephants always dominate the waterholes? If you're referring to dominate in terms of being the most obvious thing to see, yes. And if you're referring to dominate as in take ownership of them, yes, is the answer to both. Remember, we are in the afternoon here, so it is hot. So it's important that the animals are able to get a sufficient amount of water into their system. And to be quite honest, nothing, and I do mean nothing, argues with an elephant. Well, if they do, they will always come out on the wrong side of that argument. So if an elephant wants to stake a claim over a waterhole and not allow any other animals to drink, it will do. And sometimes, particularly the young bulls, can get a little bit boisterous and they will chase away other animals. But you also find there's a fairly unspoken truce between most of them. During this time of the day, everybody knows that they need water and they're all fairly accommodating of each other. Even if you see, often you'll see lions just lying in the shade close to a water point, the animals will still come down to drink because they know it's not exactly um, chief hunting time for those animals. And as long as they can see them, they're not too concerned. They're more concerned about being snuck up on, particularly under the cover of darkness. But lovely views there of that little fountain. That is the inflow pipe. That is the reason that these bulls always stand on that side of the dam. And you can see doing exactly this, placing the trunk right over that pipe and sucking the fresh water directly up into the trunk to be transferred to the mouth. Nolene, indeed, a beautiful sight to start the afternoon. It's lovely to get these close up views as well. See those ancient toenails of the elephants in that skin, and you can watch as he just shifts his weight. Look how the foot changes shape. That big spongy pad underneath the foot expands when they place their foot down and then contracts when they lift it up. So if you watch when he puts that foot down, you can see how it expanded out there. It's just a great way of absorbing all of that weight. And it's one of the reasons that elephants could walk so softly that on a sandy road, you honestly wouldn't hear one crossing 5 meters behind you. It just acts like a giant muffler, basically, and kills any ambient sound that they are creating. Dom, you're saying dinosaur feet. Yeah, absolutely. Kathy, you're saying gives a great perspective as to just how tall giraffes are. I was saying yesterday that we often forget what a massive creature a giraffe actually is. You can easily walk underneath the giraffe's chest, depending on your height, and probably not even bump it into its stomach. I had to dodge one on the way home. I had to pop into town this morning. I've got giraffe in my estate here, and I had to wait for the giraffe to get out of the way. And so you could pretty much drive a car underneath the giraffe if you could. Don't recommend doing so, but they really are spectacular animals when seen close up. You may have noticed we've jumped down to Maputaland and to Tembe Elephant Park. Looks like we had a problem with the camera up there at Old Donyo. I'm sure we'll get that sorted and head back up there at some point. But some more elephants dominating the waterhole. As you rightly asked, if you were, more elephants here at Tembe. Juicy, you're asking how do they stop their toenails from growing so long? Well, regressively, they can't go for pedicures. They don't make nail files for elephants, or they probably somebody has done in a captive environment. That is the sort of place where elephants' feet do need to be potentially maintained because they are not privy to the normal wear and tear that these elephants get. So just the constant walking, the constant dragging of the toes, because they do sort of drag the toe a little bit when they walk, just helps to keep those toenails nice and short. So we see it in even livestock if they don't wander around enough, and their hooves are not being abraded, I think that's the word, or weathered away, and being subject to rocky and stony and dusty habitats. Then I'm guessing that those toenails will grow. But constant use, constant wandering around, dragging the feet keeps everything nice and trim. I've just had a quick check, and it seems that apparently the growth rate for elephant toenails is smaller than ours, only about 1 to 2 millimeters per month. Obviously, depending on variables such as minerals and their diet and their age. But as I suspected, as I suspected, in captivity they do get fairly regular foot care and trimming. We were talking about arthritis yesterday. Elephants do indeed get arthritis, particularly in their front legs, the load-bearing portion of the body. So they do need to be pampered occasionally in a captive environment, say, because they are not um, subjecting those toes to the standard wear and tear that a wild elephant would have. Remember, they can traverse huge distances, particularly the big males, on their never-ending search for food, water, and ladies.
Let's go and take a look. See you out there.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
You have bulls and ewes in nyalas. One on the right seems to be the most alert of the lot, I think, is the one that keeps popping its head up the most. Not sure maybe if she's heard something or caught something out the corner of her eye just before she came down for a drink, so keeping a close eye out just in case any danger is approaching. I'd say minimal danger this time of year, but never say never. We're always hoping that a cat or a predator of some description will turn up on one of the cameras during these 2 hours. Maybe today is the day. Elephant hiding in the undergrowth at the back there. Be amazed how camouflaged an elephant can be. It is not unusual to drive down the road and suddenly find an elephant right next to you that you didn't see. They can be so quiet with those big shock absorbing feet, and if they're not breaking branches, if they're just having a little doze under a tree, it's surprisingly easy to bump into an elephant. It's like giraffe as well. It's amazing how quickly they can just disappear. They say hide behind a lamppost, pretty much, those things. But nice to see this group of bulls all spread out, everybody enjoying their own little part of this spa here. Some having a drink, some having a a mixture between mud and dust. Mud bath, I'm sure some will have a dust bath as well. We had one yesterday having a proper little swim in that puddle. Well, puddle's a bit harsh, in that little waterhole, let's say. So also another way that they'll keep those toenails short. You can see the one in the foreground there just thrashing its feet to stir up the mud to get some good sediment in that mud that he's throwing onto himself. And of course, they will dig for roots and for tubers. They use their feet as well when they're grabbing hold of small branches emanating from the soil. They will grab it, get it taut, and then kick it with their front feet to break it. And then usually that's when they'll eat the cambium layer, things like the raisin bushes. They're very fond of doing that. So all of these things will just help to keep those toenails short and in good condition. Hannah, I think you're probably right. They certainly do have very coarse tail hair. Whether it's the coarsest out of all of the animals, I'm not sure. I would think a hippo would also have very, very coarse hair. Um, but yeah, very well known, of course, for making jewelry, elephant hair, bracelets inlaid into rings and things, quite sought after. It's certainly a nice memento of Africa. Jeremiah, I'm not actually sure whether this waterhole is a natural waterhole or if it is pumped and supplied by us. I've never seen it dried up, so I'm assuming that it is pumped. The main body to the right, the large area of water. This area, I wouldn't be surprised if that is natural. You could just see the amount of vegetation growing in there. That's often a sign of relatively stagnant water. So I think this is probably a natural pan, whereas the other one, I imagine, is likely to be pumped. But don't forget where we are here, we're much closer to the east coast, so it is a little bit more humid. They do get more rain than we do in the interior and up in the Lowveld. So better conditions where water generally will last a little bit longer. Greetings to you as well, Joanne Mello. I'm glad you could stop by and grace us with your wonderful presence. And everybody else as well, for that matter, who hasn't yet sent us a message. I'm so glad you're all watching. It's great to know that so many people from so many different walks of life and so many different countries across the world are tuning in to these beautiful scenes. Alrighty, let's take a trip over to Serendella and see what's happening that side. And as yesterday, we have our lazing hippopotamus with its accessorizing of a terrapin. Clambering up the slope there to try and get the best position for the sun. Murambamhuru, I'm sure, I hope I'm saying that one correctly. You're saying the terrapin and the hippos are best friends. Well, they do. You can see there's another one at the back who I think is also considering scaling that rather sizable rear quarters of the hippo to try and access to the sun. You can see this one on the top is in full sunbathing mode, just flat out there, legs outstretched behind and in front. There are no real competition between the two of them. And a great opportunity to do a little bit of sunbathing, and I'm sure there is also a relationship between the hippos and the terrapins in terms of their tick loads as well, particularly in the summer months when the hippos come out in the evening and they go foraging for their grass. When they return to the water, any ticks that have attached themselves to them, those terrapins will, I'm sure, flock towards them and groom them and clean them off. We often see it with the herds of buffalo. You see the buffalo come down to the water and they all sort of stand in the water, and you can see all the terrapins just congregating towards them. Oh, looks like the one on the left is going to try and get up there. They do have little clawed feet, terrapins, so you might be able to get a sufficient amount of grip. Let's see if he manages it. And whether or not the one in possession of the hippo's back takes exception to sharing his sun lounger.
This is an unbelievable afternoon.
My full name is Mpomu Tikani. Best part of my job is coming to see nature. Worst part of my job is logging. That's the worst thing ever, because you have to log amount of footage. You sit in front of that computer and yeah, you think of deleting the footage, but no, they need the footage. If I want a camel, probably a soccer player. I know some people don't believe me, but I'm very good, and I'm very fast.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman,
Got no idea what's going on in this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do?
Because we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible.
This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Out here, every moment counts. As a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel ad-free 24/7 and rewind if you want to catch something again. Enjoy behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and early access to travel offers. It's the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
Okay, but always nice to check in with some sunbathing terrapins, but let's head back up to Kenya and Oldonyo. Oh, we've got some necking giraffe. Maybe, maybe not. They're not really in combat position. Often, if it's a decent fight, they'll stand side by side to each other and sort of jostle for position and try and hook their front legs over the other one to make it harder to balance. Yeah, there we go. Beautiful. The flexibility of those necks never ceases to amaze. It really is a ballet when two giraffe have a little confrontation like this. But say this is by no means um, an aggressive fight. This is two youngish males by the look of it. Just really some social bonding, maybe some establishing of hierarchies, a good excuse to practice for when the main event comes along. It's still beautiful to watch, so rhythmical, and so it's like a Mike Tyson sort of bobbing and weaving master of the fence, or maybe we should go with the Floyd Mayweather analogy perhaps, but it's amazing how flexible those necks are. See, that's very much a dominance exercise that we're seeing there as well. Two males mounting one another. That's nothing untoward. It is merely a way to stake one's dominance claim. You can see just barging into the other one to keep him off balance. Definitely the one on the right, the taller of the two, is the aggressor in this exchange, but as I said, still not a serious fight. This is just, I think, a little bit of putting the smaller one in its place more than anything else. John, I see you asking, is it true that giraffe exhibit homosexual tendencies? No. As far as I'm aware, at least, when you do see two males mounting one another, say it is very much a dominance thing. We see it in many different species between males. You'll see it in buffalo. I've seen it in lions quite a few times as well. We often misconstrue it, but it is just a way for one animal to prove dominance over another. Wambits, you're saying, please don't fight. This is a family show. No, absolutely. We don't want to see two. Well, actually, we kind of do because it's pretty amazing, but it can be very aggressive and lead to some pretty serious injuries. Two giraffe going at it full bore. So just a little bit of gentle necking like this is fine. Oh, hello, zebra. I remember seeing one incident of giraffes having a proper fight, and they pretty much literally got themselves tangled up. I've got some photos of it somewhere. One managed to get his front leg over the neck of his aggressor, and then, of course, the one who was bending down at the time then raised his neck, causing the other one to kind of do the splits with the front legs, and ended up with its leg up in the air, dangling around, stumbling around on all three legs. And the two of them kind of got themselves a bit tangled up. It was quite amusing to watch. Melanistic marble, you're imagining me driving under that giraffe. Well, not while they're doing this, I don't think. And so you'd have to have quite a narrow car, I think, to get through. And it's certainly not going to work if you're in a bucky or a pickup or a 4x4. But maybe if you've got a nice sleek coupe or a sports car, you might be able to squeeze through the gap. But you certainly don't want a giraffe hoof through your windscreen, that's for sure. Oh, look at the zebra, the massive scar down its side where those stripes had disassociated themselves from each other. Glance towards the camera. EJ, you're right, the zebras are photobombing the giraffe, particularly the last one who looked straight at us. Oh, they're back. Hannah, you think giraffe have the longest tails? They might do. I'll have to give that some thought. But let's quickly go to Serendella. Sounds like we've got something interesting happening there. Oh, wow, I've got a grey heron who's got himself a frog. Looks like a platana, one of the more aquatic frogs. You don't really see them out of the water at all. And you can see just washing it off there. Frogs do produce that mucus as a defense mechanism, which is unpleasant and toxic. So you'll often see herons like this washing the frog off, trying to get rid of a lot of that mucus. But yeah, it looks like what we call a platana. Not many other frogs around this time of year, of course. Platanas are always there. Favourite food of the hummerkop as well. And probably most famous in history for their use as a pregnancy test back in the day because of frogs' ability to absorb things from their environment through their skin, including oxygen and unfortunately pollutants, which is why a really good frog population is a suggestion that your water is in good condition and not too rich in pollutants because they would suffer the consequences of absorbing that stuff. It used to be done, I think, up until about the 50s, even as the most reliable pregnancy test that humans had. So they would take the urine from a potentially pregnant woman and inject it under the skin of one of these platanas, which I know is not a very nice thing to do for the frog. And she would absorb those hormones that were in there and cause the female frog, oh, bye-bye frog, to actually produce eggs. And apparently it would happen within a few hours. And it was very, very, very reliable. Something like, I seem to remember, like 90 something percent reliable. It was used up until only the last century. Oh, that was a platana. So we've seen a kill, I suppose we can say here. They're very cool to watch, unless you are the platana. All right, from one bird to many, it sounds like it's feeding time at Victoria Falls. Let's go and watch the vulture chaos. Our usual smattering of majority of white-backed vultures. I'm sure there's some hoodeds in there, and of course the marabou storks tiptoeing over all of the other bodies in the hope of getting themselves some scraps. Like that marabou at the back managed to throw its ample weight around and managed to grab something and retreat to safety to eat it. Glad they also get some food. It must be very difficult to find anything in that scrum of vultures. See a couple of little fights ensuing as well. Wings spread and pecking going on, particularly there at the back left. Jake, you're right, they do look like insects. As I've said before, it reminds me of when all the winged termites come out and sort of congregate around those exit holes for the mound. But yes, it's a very the movement of it all happens together in a uniform motion, like a murmuration of starlings is of course a wake of vultures. But I think maybe we must come up with a new name to describe this sort of feeding frenzy. But it looks like most of it must have gone. See quite a few taking to the skies now. Very impressive wingspans. And there's very obvious fingertips at the end of the wings, which are very easy to spot in vultures. They sort of spread out primary wing feathers, which have a very important role. They help to equalize the pressure. Of course, that's how the lift is generated. Low pressure and high pressure on below and above the wings. And that pressure has to equalize in one way and tends to sort of slip along the surface of the wing and tries to equalize at the wingtip. And if you just had a sheer edge there, those two different pressures would come together and that would create a little bit of turbulence, which would make it more difficult for the birds to keep stable in flight. So by having those sort of exposed wing tips, like fingers sticking out, it just helps to diffuse the air, and those two pressures can merge a little bit more gently, and it creates for a more stable ride, a more stable flight, I should say, for the vultures. We see it in the larger eagles as well. And so Lion Pride was saying, seeing that heron reminds you of a cartoon picture of a heron with a frog in its mouth, where the frog is actually choking it, and the caption being to never give up. Absolutely. I mean, it's amazing how these birds can swallow such large things. I saw a pied kingfisher swallowing a fish the other day, and this fish was enormous. If you think about the size of the kingfisher, it would be like me trying to eat an entire cow leg in one go, yet is able to extend the gullet, and the flexible esophagus is able to swallow the thing whole. It's a pretty remarkable feat, actually. But as you said, you must never give up. I remember seeing what snake was it? I think it might have been a bonsla that was trying to eat a chameleon, and the head and most of the body of the chameleon was in the snake's mouth, but its tail was still wrapped around a branch in an act of defiance, and it was refusing to be swallowed. It was a long time ago, and I can't remember if the chameleon managed to get away. I mean, it would have been envenomated by that point, obviously, and I have no doubt the snake would have won. But it was quite a sort of a testament to that will to survive, that even though your head is down the gullet of a venomous snake, that tail was still holding on for dear life, refusing to give up.
For years, we've shared virtual wildlife. Now, let's experience it for real. I'm Lauren Arthur, and I'd love to show you my amazing home here in the Greater Kruger of South Africa. This 5-night journey is an exclusive connection to my piece of untamed Africa. I live here in these gorgeous landscapes surrounded by epic wildlife. The wild is calling, so come and join me.
raptors, you will often see battaliers, eagles, particularly battaliers and tawny eagles. And in fact, their eyesight is so good that it is not uncommon for the battaliers, particularly, to be the first birds to actually spot a carcass, and then the vultures will key off the activity of those eagles and then arrive en masse to hoover up whatever is left behind. But it's quite normal to see an eagle in association with a carcass, although, as you've asked here, I don't think I've ever seen one here. I could only imagine that maybe the eagles have decided it's just not worth it. There are far too many vultures, and it's not worth getting involved in the melee to try and get a little bit of food from it. Well, it'd be interesting to know if any of you have seen any tawnies or battaliers or other eagles. Here, I've only ever seen a few different vulture species and the marabou storks every time we've witnessed this feeding. Right, but it looks like they've hoovered up pretty much anything worth having there. Maybe one or two hoodeds just poking around for anything that was left behind. But let's take a trip to Tau Lodge in Madikwe now. A nice herd of wildebeest enjoying a drink. Considering the lack of grass cover, particularly up in Madikwe, which I know is suffering from a particularly dry period at the moment, these wildebeest look in very good condition. I don't see any emaciated wildebeest. I don't see obvious ribs showing in any of these animals, and they all look as if they've got relatively shiny fur, which is a evidence that they're still getting sufficient minerals and things in their diet. I'm sure they are supplementing it. There'll probably be some geophagia happening, which I know we do see quite regularly up in Madikwe, which is eating of the soil in order to get those vital minerals in that perhaps they're not getting from this very sort of fibrous roughage, which is all that's available at the moment. I've never seen wildebeest actually eating anything different from grass. They are well known to be very fussy eaters. The zebra in the background, though, they are or have been recorded, and I have seen them do it, actually feeding on the cambium layer of trees, so using their teeth to sort of scrape off that outer layer of bark, and then just like the elephants like to enjoy that rich cambium layer that has a lot of the energy that the tree has formed in there. And strangely, the zebras, certainly that I've seen, always seem to favour the large-fruited and the variable bush willows. I don't know if there is anything specific in those trees that makes them particularly attractive. The only thing I can think of is that maybe they've got pretty big leaves, so maybe their ability to photosynthesize a little bit more energy than trees with smaller leaves perhaps makes them more attractive. But I have seen zebras doing that, and it's not uncommon in the dry season to see evidence of it around the base of smaller trees. Things sort of the size of maybe your lower leg or your forearm. That seems to be the type that they'll go for. Rich, you're saying there's a couple of gingers in the herd. There were a couple with a slightly more ruddy tinge to them, certainly. Whether or not that is the hair itself, I'm not convinced. What you'll often find is, say, they will display the colour of the soil that they have been rolling around in this particular area, because this is a very flat, open area. All the nutrients and things have been leached away. It's very, very pale soils. But there are areas in Medicre which has much, much redder soils, and you'll often see wildebeest rolling around in the dust. And just like with elephants and rhinos and warthogs, they will often display the colour of the soil that they choose to roll around in the most. It may also be something to do with just the refraction of the light. They do have quite shiny, short fur. It does reflect the sunlight very well. So it could be something to do with the camera, it could be the angle of the sun. But they do have a sort of an iridescence to them. That's where the blue wildebeest comes from. They are not, of course, blue in colour, but they can refract the sunlight in ways to give it a bluish tinge. Right, let's head back across to Serendella. Lots of Ellie's having a drink and a couple of warthogs in the background as well. Deborah, you want to know who decided on the ugly five? There is one of the members just disappearing, the warthog. Deborah, I don't know who was the person who rather cruelly decided that those five animals should be deemed ugly. I think you'll all agree that there are no ugly animals, with potentially the exception of the marabou stork, which is not the prettiest bird in the world. But I don't know if it was a specific person who actually came up with it.
This unfolds in front of you.
Even a hyena coming into the action as well now. Oh my word! She's stalking the hyena now. Leopard, hyena, lion, all together in one shot. Oh. Woo! This is action-packed.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Msesani. My scariest moment is when it happened twice. The other time I was with Cedric and the other time I was with Steve. And all those times it was a black mamba. My favorite meal in camp is gonna be burger and chips.
Out here, every wild moment matters, and as a Wild Earth explorer, you won't miss a thing. Watch the Wild Earth channel, ad-free 24/7, where you can even rewind and watch something again. Get access to behind-the-scenes videos, fireside chats, and access to early travel offers. It is the best way to stay connected and be part of the Wild Earth family.
That we can identify true elephant ivory even from something like mammoth ivory or hippo teeth, which is also ivory, warthog tusks, which is also a type of ivory. But elephant tusk is particularly well known for its ability to be polished and its ability to be carved nicely. It doesn't disintegrate. So ivory is dentine, but it's a specific structural form of dentine, if that makes sense. Look at this youngster. Having an absolute blast in the water there. Jason, yeah, the heron does look scared stiff. He's just going to go to the central point furthest away from all of the elephants and try and avoid all of these waving trunks and flying mud. But I'm loving this youngster on the right. He's having a blast. The hippo also doesn't. It's just sort of accepting what's happening, but you can see he doesn't look very happy. Oh, there we go. There's a little bit of annoyance, a little bit of a yawn, just saying, "Come on, ladies. This is also my place. Give me a little bit of personal space, please." Oh, look out, heron. Oh, pool party time for the Ellies. You see the one at the back, I think, was chasing birds around. Yeah, the heron's decided it's all too much. Oh, this one on the right, having a proper bathe. Oh, the little one's wading out into deep water. This youngster at the back's chasing birds around. Elephants get so happy when they come to water, particularly in the dry season. You can see them, they start sort of rushing towards the water, particularly the young ones, and adults are sort of holding them back. Just to know, come on, check yourself. We need to make sure that it's safe first. But they do get very excitable at times. Indeed, Hannah, the poor hippo, was having a peaceful bath, and it's now been completely ruined by this herd of elephants, disturbing all the water. I'm waiting for one of the youngsters to chase this hippo around as well, but he may know better. But it does happen. I have seen a few hippos chased out of the water, usually by young bulls. Lady Macbeth, back to our ugly five. Yes, you're saying there's an ugly five, a shy five, a little five, there's a baby five, there's big six birds, there's a big five trees. As you rightly said, it's all about selling safaris, unfortunately. The hippo's decided he's had enough. Hold on for dear life, Terrapin. He's clambering up onto the top of the spine. I sense the hippo and this heron may forge a friendship in light of the chaos behind them. But the eddies did get a little boisterous momentarily. I think that's why everybody's decided to just give them a bit of space. But Lady Macbeth, you're right. Unfortunately, it is all about selling safaris. That's the way it's done now. And people get a sort of a false impression of what to expect or what a safari is all about. People want to come and tick off animals on a list. Basically, they're quite happy just with a checkbox. Go, yep, see one of those, see one of those, see one of those. And they lose the whole ethos of actually just being out in nature and being at one with it and experiencing it and seeing what unfolds. And I speak from experience that it is one of the hardest things about guiding is managing guest expectations. I'm not talking about everybody, of course, but a lot of people and fully understand it. I was talking to somebody about it this morning. You know, for lots of people, they've got 2 nights on safari, and it may be the only time in their lifetime that they have the chance to do it, and they want to see everything, which is fully understandable. I would have been like that on my first trip as well. But it's a good guide is able to find the balance between showing people everybody. Is hippo going to have a... No, I thought the hippo might have had something to say to the elephant there. But to find that balance between seeing everything, but also actually sharing the whole ethos of being out on safari and in a wilderness area and watching the animals in their natural habitat, not disturbing them, and appreciating nature's beauty in all its forms, be it an ant all the way up to a massive elephant. Actually looks like quite a young hippo, this one. Maybe it's just because he's being dwarfed by the elephants, but maybe a little uncomfortable with the situation, or maybe feeling bold that the elephants are moving off and likes to think that it had something to do with it. But it is a youngster, probably a young bull, maybe chased out of his natal herd now that he's becoming more sexually mature and has been forced to find his own area, and hopefully he'll be able to attract some females, but looks as if he's still got a little bit of growing to do. Yeah, definitely still a youngster, by no means fully grown. He looks a bit sad, or maybe he's just been disturbed from his slumber, not quite sure what's going on. Nice view of those four-toed feet as well. One of the even-toed ungulates by having 4 toes. And say partially or just a little bit webbed, just to facilitate movement through the water. And look at those big scratches down his back. So very lightly dished out by the dominant male of the pod that he was a part of. I'm assuming still that it is a he. All right, sorry if you heard some talking there from Johannesburg. It seems my phone is disconnected from my headphones, but we are going to go to Camelthorne now. Sounds of a laughing dove in the background. That plenty of hippos as normal here at Camelthorne. And Juliet, you're saying it's hot in the south of England today, 25 degrees, and you wish you could join the elephant pool party. Absolutely. But yeah, maybe like the hippo and the heron, just keep your distance though, perhaps.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
At Wild Earth, we believe every story has the power to create change. That's why we've launched the Wild Earth Impact Foundation, a non-profit dedicated to conservation and social impact. By showcasing conservation stories, we can change lives, protect nature, and empower communities. We have partnered with Empowers Africa to accept tax-deductible donations from US donors. Your donation will help fund critical programs that support our mission. Join us and be part of the change.
My name is Takudzwa Panda Nsesani. I really want to film an artwork, and it has been my goal. I'll be just keeping my eyes open. The worst driver is James. He's driving, yeah. You gotta be holding on back in there, yeah? Like in bumps, and I mean, it happens when, these things happens when you're actually going for animals usually. But then, yeah, he's driving, yeah, you gotta put your seatbelt.
Step into the heart of Africa from the comfort of your home.
Female leopard tracks over here.
Join our expert guides for a live 3-hour safari where every moment is real, unscripted, and unforgettable. Ask questions.
Animals rely on their senses.
Share your thoughts and be part of the experience as we explore together. Safari Live. Safari, wine, and waterfalls. The ultimate African adventure. Sip South Africa's finest wines. Experience a world-class safari among Africa's iconic wildlife. And stand in front of Victoria Falls, one of the natural wonders of the world. All this can be yours with Wild Earth Travel, where Africa comes alive.
Yes, that does stand out against the tree line. Sure, we saw them fly in there somewhere, but I don't see them at the moment. Maybe a branch or two in the way, but still lovely to hear them. And so it's quite a sort of a haunting noise from these doves. Various doves, of course, that we could see. Ah, there's the fish eagle. Very iconic scene and noise all together. One of my favourite birds. Still never, I've seen a few have a go at a fish, but I've still never seen one actually grab a fish out of the water and fly off carrying one with it. I've seen one eating a barbel from a perch, but never actually seen one being taken from the water. I'm still looking for a blue-spotted dove as well. We get emerald-spotted wood doves, very, very common here, but right up in the Pafuri region, north of Kruger, close to the border there with Zim and Mozambique, you can potentially see a blue-spotted dove that look very, very similar to the green spots, except they have blue spots on their wings instead of green, as the name suggests, and also a little bit more yellow on the beak. But really, to be sure, you have to check every one with a pair of binoculars, and they are quite a common bird. So I think sometimes we do just sort of dismiss them, but it would be pretty amazing. I think that's the last dove I need to check off my South African list. I was also speaking to somebody this morning here in Hoedspruit who says they saw an orange-winged petilia at their bird bath the other day. We get quite a few green-winged petilias. Quite common in this area, formerly known as a Melba fin. One of my favourite birds, actually. Beautiful colours, particularly the males during breeding time with that sort of reddish-orange faces. But orange-winged petilia, it's the second sighting in the last few years that I've heard of in the Hoedspruit area. So I will be keeping a beady eye out, because that's one I could also add to my list. Right, nice to check in at Camelthorpe. Let's head over to one of our other cameras, I think still in Botswana. Let's go double check. Yeah, Menevakwena and by the Mateki River, still in Bots, and say plenty more elephants and zebras very much sort of partially submerged, which is brave. I don't know whether there are crocs here, but I'm sure there probably are. Rather trusting zebras, maybe false sense of security by all the elephants milling around as well. Fan, you're saying watching an elephant playing in the water gives me so much joy. I agree completely. It's say just watching those youngsters. It's very difficult to not have just a sort of a smile on your face when you see them enjoying life to the fullest like that. They really do elicit a great love of water, and to sit in person and watch elephants having one of their pool parties is one of life's great delights, certainly. Because I thought we saw some mud being flung close to the camera. A couple of them enjoying a mud bath here. Oh, and a little one as well having a roll. Much easier to roll around in the mud when you're that size. Bulldozing headfirst through the mud. And I would think pretty much getting in everybody's way. I think there's another one actually lying in the mud there. Yes, there's two youngsters having an absolute blast. Rolling around with each other now. And everybody's decided this is a good idea. How awesome is this? It's beautiful. Don't get stuck, buddy. Just adorable, isn't it? Looking at the adults and saying, that's how you cover yourself in mud. Stop showing off with your punk dexterity and just do head plants in the mud. Much, much easier. Just practicing a bit of trunk movement there. Nope, still easier to just roll around. Potentially now time to go and have a dust bath and just cover that mud coating with some dust, extra protection against the sun and ectoparasites. Kathy, you're asking if the young elephant got stuck, would the lodge intervene? In this situation, Kathy, I don't think they'd have to, because the adults would do their best. Elephants are very good mothers, and the whole herd would come to the rescue, and they would drag the little one out or push the little one out. There have been cases where baby elephants have got stuck and the herd has been unable to assist and they have left. And then generally speaking, again, I don't want to put words in people's mouths, but it will depend on the protocols of those areas. But generally speaking, yes, if a little elephant was to get stuck like that, it would be assisted in that regard. I myself have assisted animals stuck in the mud. I've had a sort of an ethical debate as to whether I should or shouldn't. I pulled a Yala out of the mud with the help of my tracker once. Unfortunately, it didn't make it. It was so exhausted that it died, I assume, from the exposure. I don't know how long it had been in there. But in this particular case, there was quite a few animals which had perished after getting stuck in the mud because they were so desperate to get to water. It was just a little puddle in the middle, and they had to sort of wade through this quagmire of mud to get there. And there were a few warthogs and a few Inyala that had already succumbed to being stuck in that mud for a period of time. But I would imagine that if it was a baby elephant, that the lodge would intervene if it was safe to do so. Let's be very careful that mum isn't still hanging around, because even though you're trying to help, there is a good chance that she will take exception to it. That being said, elephants are pretty intelligent, and there are quite a few reports of animals that have been rescued, or youngsters that have been rescued, where the mother has been close by and allowed for it to happen in some sort of beautiful form of interspecies trust. But normally, the herd is very good at dealing with that situation and will come to the aid of a youngster. Speaking of good mothers, I watched a really interesting sort of 8 minute or so video clip that had come from the BBC, and Attenborough narrated little segment on the community spiders that we have here in Africa, the Stegodipus genus. They're related to the velvet spiders, the ones that make those big sort of matted nests in the trees and all that thin silk spreading out almost like fake snow you get for Christmas trees. And I've always known that these community spiders practice what's called matrophagy. So you get osteophagy, eating bones, geophagy, eating soil. Matrophagy is actually eating your own mother. These spiders only live for around about a year, and when they have their youngsters, they have voracious appetites. And when the mother and pretty much any of the older members of that group are coming to the end of their lives. It's amazing footage of all of this happening. You can see they're struggling, they're unable to walk properly, and they will sit on the web and they vibrate their bodies every so often, which we think is designed to mimic prey struggling within the web, those vibrations being sent through the web. And then all the youngsters will descend upon the mother or the adult female spider as if she was prey and eat her or feed off her, of course, digestive enzymes being injected. So it's sort of the ultimate sacrifice. She's on her way out, and what better gift to give her offspring than the gift of her life? I don't know of many species where that happens, but very amazing to watch this footage and the way that they hunt as a pack, pretty much. Community spiders are quite rare. Most spiders are cannibals, and this is one of the few species that do live together, potentially in their hundreds. And when something does get stuck in the web, they come out and they move as one, and then they all stop as one, so that they can listen for those vibrations or feel those vibrations as exactly where in this vast network of silk the prey item is, and then they move again, and then they all stop, and then they move again, and they all stop. Potentially 50 or 70 or 100 of these little spiderlings moving together as one. It's quite eerie to watch, but incredible camera footage. If you can find it, do go and check it out. So, yeah, the footage of them moving is always quite freaky. They also, I read something the other day that we think that spider origins may have actually come from the ocean, like many things, but they found a fossil of a little arthropodic sort of creature from the oceans, a fossil that's 500 million years old, that seems to have the same sort of neuron arrangement and brain mechanisms as modern day arachnids. So we know that there have been scorpions on land for about 400 million years or so, but looks like we found some sort of common ancestor that actually did live in the oceans now that shares similarities between modern day spiders. We know that they are one of those animals that has remained unchanged for millions of years. So always interesting to get more information on their lineage and their evolution. Look at these ellies using gravity and accelerating down towards the water in their excitement. I'm sure these youngsters are also going to have a play around. Kathy, I'm glad you enjoyed the information regarding spiders. I just think they're the most incredible things. They are freaky, and I don't particularly like them anywhere near me or on me. But I think of all the animals out here, I find them one of the most fascinating. To actually learn more about them, the whole silk production, the 7 different types of silk glands, the different uses for it, the way they're able to coordinate all of those legs together, their incredible eyesight that some species have got, chemoreceptors on their feet, open circulatory systems, book lungs and spiracles. There's lots of variation between species, but also just their different hunting techniques. Many different ways to use silk to your advantage. But we should rather focus on these elephants, and as expected, this youngster's decided a lie down in the mud is the way forward. Stacey, you're saying the ellies have a waterhole wiggle. Absolutely. Was it you, Stacey, who suggested the waterhole wiggle when we started the show? I have visions of tens, hundreds, maybe even millions of people around the globe when the opening sequence of Live at the Waterhole comes up. I like to think now everybody is going to stand up and do the waterhole wiggle. We can make it a new social media craze.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
What does it take to handle the wild? Balance. Determination. Focus.
Yaku!
And gear that can take a beating so you don't have to.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Most people that know me really well call me Max. I'm a mum. I have 2 boys. One is 16 years old and one is 14 years old. I'm a very, very proud mama of my 2 boys. I've just always been passionate about leopards. I'm passionate about their conservation. I'm just passionate about everything to do with leopards. I love them.
If you love watching Wild Earth, here's a little tip. Become a member. You can gain access to the channel ad-free, you can rewind and re-watch sightings, and you can join our Tuesday live safaris. There's also behind the scenes videos, fireside chats, and every Safari Live episode, whenever you want it. It's just a better way to stay connected to nature.
Ones are doves and the larger members are pigeons. Quite whether there is a specific grammage, a specific weight, at which point one becomes another, I'm not sure. But remember, these are colloquial names. They're not the taxonomic scientific names for each of these animals. They're just the names attributed to them in a more of a common setting. This youngster chasing zebras around. So I don't know if there is an official cut-off, Deb D, but generally size. Right, let's head down to Founder's Lodge. Oh, fabulous. Look at this. 3 rhinos to enjoy. Oh, loads of rhinos to choose from. We were teased yesterday with just the spines and the rear ends of a couple of rhino over the ridge there, but it looks like 5 here today. Fantastic to see. Got a young female at the back there. This, I'm guessing, is a male, just looking at the thickness of the base of his horn. Possibly with some intentions. You hear that little snorting, that huffing, which is a communication between him and a female. I think that's the rhino equivalent of, "Hey baby, do you come here often?" Des, do hippo and rhino have similar feet? No, they do not. Rhinos have got, well, I suppose similar in terms of size and the fact that they kind of walk on their tiptoes, similarly to elephants. Well, not quite the same, those are near ungulates, but they do walk on their tiptoes. But they have different toe structures. So the hippos, we saw their feet nicely earlier, and they have the 4 toes, but rhinos only have 3 toes on both feet. And you can tell the difference between the rhino species by looking at the toes, even from their tracks. So these are white rhino or square-lipped rhinos, and they have a very large front toe, oval-shaped toenail that you'll see in the sand. And then the 2 side toes as well are also very large. In fact, all 3 toes that you would see in a track are basically all the same size in rhinos, but in black rhinos they have that larger front toe and then much smaller side toes and a bit of a gap between them on the track as well. You can also see at the back that sort of W shape, which is very prominent in a track, whereas the black rhino, it does have a little W, but by nowhere near as pronounced. It's much more rounded than in a white rhino. Lovely reflections in the water, and nice to see a group of them together. I remember the days before the poaching epidemic got too bad. In my early career of guiding, it was quite common to come across groups of rhino together. The most I ever saw together as a crash of rhino was 12 at one point. And to be honest, there you can see the toes nicely there. Look at that big front toe, and the 2 side toes are very similar in size. And the black rhino, those 2 side toes, much smaller in comparison. But now, sure, we really struggle to see rhino. I haven't seen a rhino in Kruger in over a year, and I do go in quite regularly. They're wonderful that we can show you on these cameras. Interesting, I'd also wager this would be a bull as well, just looking at the girth of that horn. Normally males have thicker and shorter horns, females have thinner but longer horns. It'd be nice to see an adult bull with a youngster as well. Trying to rack my brains as to what that bird call is. Very distinctive. In the background, closest I can come up with without checking is a cuckoo shrike. I know they have a long sort of drawn out whistle like that, but normally in more heavily vegetated areas. Not sure if they even occur in the Eastern Cape, but not a call that I hear very often on these cameras. I'm sure I've heard it before. It sounds familiar, but as I was saying yesterday, the bird calls, we learn them and are tested on them to get certain qualifications. But then if you don't hear them for a while, they disappear from the brain pretty quickly, or the associations of what bird it is specifically disappear. Well, grey cuckoo shrikes would indeed fit. I'm going to play the grey cuckoo shrike and see how close that I would be. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be working through my phone at the moment. Oh, not grey, sorry, white-breasted, I think. Doesn't sound particularly familiar, but that's what my gut says, and often our gut is normally correct. So I will stick with it unless anyone else wants to tell me otherwise. No, my brain's still going to cuckoo shrike. I'll have to check properly a little bit later. I don't know if we've ever seen a cuckoo shrike on the camera here. It sounded quite close, but say normally in more heavily vegetated areas, but certainly do occur along the eastern side of the country, along that coastal belt. Kian, that's a good question. Actually, you're asking why elephant collars around their necks and rhino generally have them on their ankles. I think just because there isn't much of a neck to speak of there of a rhino, so it would be rather difficult to put a collar on a rhino. An elephant has an obvious sort of area behind the skull where it would sit. Why we don't put ankle bracelets on elephants? Again, I was just thinking it's more likely to potentially slip off. You can see the rhino's foot much larger at the base and a smaller leg. Elephant leg is a bit more sort of uniform and trunk-like, so maybe runs the risk of falling off, which would rather defeat the object of putting it on there. That's the only thing I can think of, Kian. I don't know if there is a specific reason. Maybe also if a rhino had one, or did have one around the neck somehow, it's far more likely to be caught on vegetation lower to the ground, perhaps. But I suppose the same could be said of the elephant, but it's a bit more protected from that happening with the large skull in the way of the collar. But how nice to see so many rhinos together. There must be, say, 6, 7, 8 of them, maybe. I've just been told that they've put a new scratching stone. I assume that one at the back. Now I think about it, I don't remember seeing that before, so maybe that's what's drawn the rhinos in. A nice mud bath and a scratching post for them. Mindy, you're asking where would you put a collar on a giraffe? At the top, middle, or bottom of the neck? A very good question, Mindy. One that I'm not really qualified to answer. I don't think it would be interesting, wouldn't it? Where you would put a collar on a giraffe. You'd certainly need a long lead, depending on the reasons for the collar, of course. Hear all those subtle communications. Rhinos are capable of making some fairly, I was about to say intense growling noises, and there are some. Particularly if a female is trying to ward off a male who's maybe overstepping his boundaries, they can release quite a loud, sort of growling roar.
My name is Amy, and today we're going to be doing things a little bit differently.
The Wild Earth Impact Foundation is a non-profit that uses the power of wildlife storytelling as a force for good. We create sustainable development projects that showcase conservation stories, empower people, and inspire environmental action. As a registered South African PBO, you can make a tax-deductible donation to the Wild Earth Impact Foundation. To find out more, visit our website.
My full name is Maxine Gaines. Best part of the job, gosh, I just love everything about guiding. I love being able to observe animal behavior and animals behaving naturally. So for me, that's by far the best part of the job. And so what we do here at Wild Earth is develop those connections with the people that are viewing, and maybe just light a little spark that says, you know what, I want to be involved in protecting this ecosystem.
But I have absolutely no complaints of this. This has been a fabulous little interaction. I've really enjoyed the noises. Dr. Stripes, you're saying you would put the collar on a giraffe at the base so it wouldn't slide all the way down. I think I would agree with you. If you had to put a collar on a giraffe at the base of the neck, seems the more logical to counteract gravity. Otherwise, an ankle bracelet would probably work as well with those thick hooves they have at the bottom. But I don't think I've ever seen a giraffe with any form of GPS tracking on it. They're generally quite easy to spot, particularly from the air. A brave little dove who went in between the legs of the rhino there. Well, that was a very, very cool little interaction between all the rhinos there. And say, hearing those noises, not something that we get to hear very often, but that's the beauty of these cameras. They're very sensitive at picking up the sound. She's sprung a leak. So she could be a he. You're never quite sure with rhinos. I haven't been able to sex them properly just yet, but they also have backward-facing penises, male rhinos, what we call retromingent or a retromingent structure, designed for scent marking purposes, of course. Same as we see in lions and leopards. I've never seen one urinate like this before. I could have at least stepped away from the water to perhaps to have done it, but hey. It was a young male. There you go. So a territorial male would have been spraying. That's how a non-territorial male would urinate, because spraying would be seen as a territorial sign of dominance, and you will find submissive males in another male's territory, and spraying would be seen as a direct sort of challenge. But interesting to see. Right, well, that was pretty epic. Probably the best rhino sighting I've ever had on these cameras at Mantis Founders Lodge. Thank you, Mantis, for that. Let's head back up to Tau. A spoonbill, a redlock coot, and a grey heron. Oh, Catherine, you're saying that they put the tracker on the ossicoat of giraffe. Well, that would make sense, certainly. Thank you, Catherine. So I've never come across one that had been tagged before, but that is probably the safest place to put one. Thank you for that. Oh, there's a clock in the background as well. Noah, you're asking, is it possible to track birds? It would be very difficult, Noah. They have a tendency to fly and then not leave any tracks. But to track a ground bird, theoretically, is possible. Tracking an ostrich, yes. But even big ground birds like bustards or ground hornbills are still capable of flight. So to some extent, yes, very much depends on the substrate. If they're walking up the road, remember, birds are not very heavy, so they're not going to leave a very obvious register of that track unless the substrate allows for it. And their tendency to fly would make life very, very difficult. But in principle, yes, you could track a bird if it stayed walking on the ground in substrate that recorded its tracks clearly enough. Although I've never tried it, I have to say. Rather ominous view of a crocodile watching us through the grass. The way they sort of just slither through the shallows, isn't it? Jane, you're saying that crocs creep you out and they move with such intent. I agree. There is something menacing about the way they move. How much of it is sort of inbuilt knowledge to be afraid of this sort of thing? But I'm with you. And I've said this before on here, but of all the things out in the bush that I'm most wary of, crocodiles are definitely up there. I think menacing is just a good word for them. There's something intrinsically scary about a crocodile. It is the perfect killing machine. Every single aspect of that animal is designed to be stealthy and feed. Yet, of course, they are still capable of some rather tender moments as well. If you've ever seen courting crocodiles, and they blow bubbles and they vibrate, and they're one of the very few reptiles that show any sort of parental care whatsoever. Mothers will look after young, carry their young down to the water in their jaws. They form little creches, and they protect them for the first few weeks of their lives. So we mustn't be too influenced by cultural opinion. Yes, they are apex predators, but they're also exceptionally good mothers as well. Probably a testament to why they are still so successful across the world and have been for a very, very long period of time.
this leopard that we're looking at is known by the name of Hlalamba.
Would you like to know what an elephant's favorite food is? You could ask me questions like that in real time. Our safaris are live and interactive from the heart of Africa. The Fortunas over here. Watch Safari Live and connect with nature.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight. We'll be
And you pretend like you're a salesman, eh?
Got no idea what's going on this reserve.
Expecting the unexpected.
Are we stuck down there?
What am I trying to do? So we have another giant of Mabula.
That was incredible. This is unbelievable.
It's going to be a spectacular afternoon.
Propelled by that muscular tail now, as opposed to belly crawling using his legs. You're never quite sure. It's the thing with a crocodile. I'm never quite sure what it's doing or what its intentions are. Ah, maybe coming to greet another one. 3 crocs, a meeting of minds. Could we be seeing a little bit of courtship behaviour here? Well, that would be my guess. Normally we sort of see a male trying to attract a mate by vibrating the body and blowing little bubbles. It's all part of the sort of the display. But I would imagine this would be a male on the left resting his chin on the female's back. I don't know if there's a specific breeding season for crocodiles. I assume they would probably coordinate it so eggs are laid during the wet season. So I would think likely what we're seeing here is some courtship. Very interesting interactions that we've had today between the rhinos and now these crocs. Just trying to do a quick bit of swatting up on the whole process, see if I can get anything concrete for us. I'm just reading a little book that I've got here. Obviously, I'm skipping out a lot of it, but there is a passage that says the male rubs his throat and the underside of his lower jaw across the head and neck of the female, exerting pressure on the glands beneath his jaw to secrete a fluid acting as an olfactory stimulus to the female. So whether or not that was what we were seeing, I'm not sure. Now, probably I haven't been watching, I was too busy reading what's going on here. Is this crocodile mating? Assuming that this is the male and there's another crocodile underneath, I think we're actually seeing crocodiles mating. Wow, if that is the case, that's amazing. Karen, you're saying you enjoy when the crocs do that vibrating thing during the courtship. Yes, it's normally the dominant male that will do that and vibrate and blow the bubbles to attract the female. But I think we are indeed witnessing crocodile mating. That is a first for me. Or at least attempted. Difficult to know whether things are being achieved. Amazing stuff. And I've also got mating season is from May to August, so that all makes sense, certainly. Mating in shallow waters. I'm not sure how long the process would normally take, say whether this is all part of the courtship or whether there is actually a transfer taking place. Candice, you're saying quite tender for horrific monsters. Yeah, absolutely. As I said, they are often misunderstood despite being horrific monsters, as you put. But we're almost out of time. This has been such an amazing show. We're down to the last minute or so now. So, Darkbane Lover, you're welcome. I'm glad you've enjoyed the show. It has indeed been a great show. Between herons catching platanas and grunting and whining rhinos, elephant babies rolling in the mud, and potentially, well, I think pretty guaranteed mating crocodiles. All sorts of interesting stuff to see. So, thanks very much for joining us. You never know what you're going to get. It has been a great day, certainly. And don't forget to join the teams for the live drives a little bit later this afternoon. But enjoy the rest of your Friday, everybody. Thank you very much for your input.
Welcome to Safari Spotlight, a journey to South Africa's wildlife wonders. Join us on an exciting virtual safari to relax, learn, and be inspired. Discover stunning landscapes, come to know our iconic animal stars, and witness profound moments in conservation. If you'd like to plan a safari adventure to these magnificent wildlife places, then visit Wild Earth Travel, where safari comes alive.